It was not long after Alexander's death in faraway Babylon that the Illyrians were up in arms once again. During the Wars of the Diadochi, King Glaucias, who had stayed in power after his defeat at Pelium, forged an alliance with some city-states, like Epidamnos, and fought against Cassander, the king of Macedonia. Cassander had taken control of the region of the Taulanti and the coastal Greek cities in 314 BCE, but Glaucias managed to retake them just 2 years later. He also adopted a young Pyrrhus, king of Epirus, by taking him and the royal family of Epirus into his court, after they were expelled by the pro-Cassander faction of Epirus. In 307 BCE, Glaucias invaded Epirus and installed the teenage Pyrrhus on the throne. In the second half of the 3rd century BC, the Ardiaen kingdom was transformed into a formidable power, under the leadership of King Agron. During this time, he significantly strengthened the Illyrian navy, utilizing swift Liburnian galleys for quick raids and maneuvers, establishing Illyria as a dominant naval force in the Adriatic Sea. In addition to that, his army also included thousands of organized infantry, with a military structure influenced by neighboring kingdoms, composed of peasant fighters led by aristocrats known as polydynasty, who controlled towns within the kingdom. Agron's military innovation focused on establishing naval dominance in the Adriatic and Ionian seas, a strategic shift that significantly increased the power of his Ardian state. Following the transformation of his kingdom into a major power in the region, Agron invaded part of Corcyra, Epidamnos, and Pharos in a quick succession, establishing garrisons in them. The Illyrians used the lembus, a small and fast warship with a single bank of oars. Raids by sea from the Adriatic and Ionian were probably a familiar threat to the northwestern Greeks. What was new was the use of a land army to follow up and profit from the victories gained by the navy. The Greek cities on the coast of Illyria were systematically attacked one by one and conquered by Agron's forces. Additionally, Agron also made an alliance pact with the Macedonian king, Demetrius II, who also disliked the Greeks. Earlier in 231 BC, after the dissolution of the Aetolian League, the Aetolian League had requested the city of Medeon to join it, but the Acarnanians refused. As a result, the Aetolians then decided to take Medeon by force, by laying siege in June. The king of Macedonia, Demetrius II, a rival of the Aetolian League, being himself engaged against the Dardanians, requested Agron to intervene and help the Acarnanians. The Dardanians had been a constant threat to the Macedonian kingdom. In 231 BC, under Longarus, they captured the Paeonian capital, Bilazora, and freed the Paeonians. In an important battle in 229 BC, Longarus attacked and defeated the Macedonian forces under Demetrius II of Macedonia, halting his attempts to extend Macedonian northern borders. In that period, Longarus made attempts to strengthen his state's position in the heart of the Balkans, against neighboring people. Nevertheless, Agron accepted Demetrius' offer, and thus began preparing for war. He managed to raise 100 light ships, along with 5,000 men on board. This was the largest force any Illyrian king had ever assembled. Agron's initiate plan was to relieve the besieged city of Medeon, before making further advancements. The Aetolians had tried to breach the fortress's fortifications with catapult stones. However, that had failed, and now the more cautious Aetolians decided on a prolonged siege, and in the next few days, the Aetolians began constructing siege works. At about the same time, Medeon received some additional reinforcements from the southeast. The city was too large to be entirely cut off by such a small force. The city's defenders started bracing for an extended engagement, as well by burning and tearing down the suburbs outside the walls, depriving the Aetolian Greeks of cover. The Illyrians landed on the Acarnanian coast in September, and marched to Medeon to attack the Aetolian besiegers. The Aetolians reacted by sending their own light infantry and cavalry to a higher ground, but a single Illyrian charge, using their close formation and numbers to their advantage, forced the cavalry to retire to the Aetolian hoplites. From their higher ground, The Illyrians then charged downwards on the combined Aetolian army, quickly routing them. When at last, the Acarnanians from inside the city joined the attack, the Aetolians were defeated, and lost many men in the process. After taking many prisoners and much booty, the Illyrians left Medeon, and sailed back to Illyria. After the death of King Agron in late 231 BC, Illyrian success continued when command passed to Agron's widow, Teuta, who granted individual ships a license to universal plunder. In early of 230 BC, the Illyrian fleet attacked Elis and Messenia in the Peloponnese. On the way home, Teuta sent her general Serdalidas to capture the city of Phoenix in Epirus. The city was captured, and the ensuing battle was won. A truce was then agreed, and Phoenix was returned for a price, along with the release of prisoners. The continued Illyrian successes across the region was to be a significant blow to the Greek states. The Epirotes signified their acceptance of the Illyrian victory by sending envoys to Teuta promising cooperation with them, and hostility towards the leagues of Greece. Phoenix was the most prosperous city in Epirus, and the center for the growing commerce with Rome. In 229 BC, Longarus, profiting from the fact that the Ardian kingdom under Teuta was dealing with campaigns in Epirus, invaded its northern borders. Longarus' influence on the region grew stronger, and some other Illyrian tribes from the Ardian kingdom joined the Dardanians under Longarus, forcing Teuta to call off her expeditions from Epirus. Teuta then sent Serdalidas north to force Longarus' army to return to Dardania. During their occupation of Phoenix, a number of Illyrian ships had engaged in becoming pirates against Roman merchants. The seizures of more southerly territories in Epirus had allowed the establishment of more staging points from which pirates could sail. So many were robbed, murdered, or captured that the Roman Senate, after ignoring earlier complaints, realized that something had to be done. Uncharacteristically peacefully for the notoriously bellicose Romans, the initial senatorial reaction was not to send in the legions, but instead to send a diplomatic ambassador to investigate the situation. In the typically harsh style of Roman diplomacy, the ambassadors protested to Teuta about the increasing piracy, and demanded that it cease immediately. The demand was not negotiable, and the Illyrians would have a chance to comply peacefully, otherwise it would be war. Teuta refused this demand, either because of her inability to control the actions of her decentralized tribal allies, or because she simply did not wish to bend to Roman demands. Whatever the case, this did not please the Romans. A situation made even worse was the murder of the Roman envoy, possibly by Teuta herself. With the death of the Roman envoy, was the immediate trigger for war. The expansion of the Ardian tribes' power over the region was a deeper geopolitical cause. Rome did not want any powerful rival in the Adriatic. Upon raising a force of 22,000 troops and 200 ships, the Roman consul, Gnaeus Fulvius Centumulus, sailed towards Corcyra to besiege the port town, despite having learned that the island had already surrendered. He was in secret negotiations with Demetrius, who had fallen out of favor with Teuta, so Corcyra welcomed the Romans, and with the aid of Demetrius, surrendered its garrison. The city became a friend of Rome, and would henceforward rely on Roman protection from the Illyrians. Demetrius now served as an advisor to the Roman commanders for the rest of the war. In addition of Demetrius, several other Illyrian subjects had also rebelled. The transition of power was a period of instability, and some territories conquered by Agron years earlier may have seen it as an opportunity to regain independence. The Epidamnians had a history of resisting Illyrian encroachment, and their opposition likely fueled Teuta's decision to besiege the city. The garrison of Epidamnos resisted the initial attack, then began to send envoys to Romans for urgent aid against Teuta. The fleet under Fulvius reached Apollonia, and then advanced toward Epidamnos, causing the Illyrians to abandon the siege and disperse. The city was received into Roman protection, and the army now moved inland among the Illyrian peoples of the hinterland. Here, the Romans received delegations from many peoples, including the Atintani and Partini, from whom a formal surrender was accepted. As the Romans approached the Illyrian heartlands, opposition stiffened. the fleet moved northwards and attacked coastal towns, one of which being the unidentified Nutria. Roman losses included a magistrate of the Republic and some military tribunes, although 20 ships laden with plunder were intercepted. The Romans decided enough had been achieved, and hostilities ceased shortly after. The consuls handed over the kingdom to Demetrius, and withdrew the Roman fleet and army to Italy, under Fulvius. Teuta herself had retreated with a few followers, to the fortified and strategically well-placed city of Rhizon, the principal base of the Illyrian fleet. According to Polybius, she made a treaty in the early spring of 228 BC, by which she consented to pay an annual tribute, to reign over a restricted and narrow region north of Lissus, and not to sail beyond Lissus with more than 2 unarmed ships. He also reports that they required her to acknowledge the final authority of Rome. Additionally, she also abdicated from her position later in 227 BC. As a result, Demetrius was rewarded with the rule of his birthplace, the island of Pharos, and a part of the land next to it, but this was only temporary, as Demetrius' ambitions to control over the Illyrian region would lead to his political marriages with Agron's first wife, thus becoming an official regent of the Ardian kingdom. In our next episode on the Illyrian Wars, we will look at the Second Illyrian War, and the unification of Dardania and Ardian kingdoms. To make sure you don't miss that, subscribe and press the bell button. Consider liking, sharing, as it helps tremendously. This is the Medieval Chronicles channel, and we will see you in the next one.